When we talk of OCD, obsessive-compulsive kind of behavior, that we all have to an extent, you might say. But when you speak of it from a planetary point of view, in this particular video, we are talking about Saturn. And Saturn is retrograde in your natal chart. What are the significant points it could signify? It'll affect everyone in whichever house Saturn is placed in. Although in this one, I'm going to be dealing with some case study with regard to 3 charts and how it might affect them. And it is most dominant with the Saturn Lord of the Ascendant when it goes in any one of the houses, and how that obsessive-compulsive behavior plays out. And there are certain principles. Let's go through that. Let's get into it. So, in principle, what does retrograde planet mean? It's seemingly going backwards from the orbit of the Earth. Meaning it appears in the sky as if the planet is going backwards from the path of the Earth's orbit. Earth is going like this, planet seems to be kind of going slow. This is because of the orbital speeds and the difference in the orbit, radius from the sun and so on and so forth. But how does it play up in our chart? Let's see, point number 1. What does OCD behavior mean? It's almost as if the soul is trying to overcompensate the shortfall in the planet's strength in your chart. So let's say Saturn is going retrograde. In this one, we are talking about Saturn. It means essentially that the soul is trying to compensate for the lack of Saturn's strength. Saturn needs to be strong. It is work, it is karma. So OCD, as per astrology, seems to be a way of overcompensating that shortfall in the planet's strength availability to the individual, which shows up as OCD, which shows up as excessive egoistic attachment or focus in that area of life. That's number 1. Number 2, Saturn retrograde has impacts anywhere placed in the chart with respect to the house and 9th place from itself, meaning wherever Saturn is placed in your chart, the 9th position from itself. And we shall do this now in the case study. However, I'm focusing on the last one. The most dominance will be felt when, as Saturn as the Lord of Ascendant, different planets, we shall take that also, different ascendants. When the Lord of the Ascendant is Saturn, which is Capricorn and Aquarius respectively, and placed retrograde in any one of the houses in the natal chart. Remember, we are talking about natal chart only. You can carry the same principle to Navamsha, Dashamsha, everywhere else. Because once Saturn is retrograde, it will be retrograde in the divisional charts as well. So let's see what impact that has. So let's take the case study of Miss J. This is her natal chart. Ascendant is in Shana Nakshatra for her, right? And Saturn is retrograde sitting in the 3rd house for her, which is in the house of Jupiter, right? Which is sitting in the sign of Jupiter, but actually in the sign of Mercury from the Kal Purusha Lagna perspective. So what does Saturn retrograde in the 3rd house mean? Hang on a minute. Yeah, I was just checking the video. So what does it mean? Saturn as the Lord of Ascendant, when it becomes OCD, because now it's retrograde. So what is the style of OCD? Very controlled, very measured in communication style. Why? Because it's the 3rd house of communication. More handsy, but also general communication. Extremely cautious with their words. Possibly to the point of overthinking, over-obsessing over what they say. Am I saying it properly? Is this grammatically correct? Are these the proper words to use in this context? So on, obsessing over it. Very structured thinking. Saturn is about structure and order. Structured and methodical thinking, they may struggle with a tendency to overanalyze details. Very Saturnian. But now Saturn is amplified in the individual. Rigidity in learning. Saturn is very rigid. Insist on adhering to traditional educational methods, because third house is also for early education, and have a difficulty in adapting to new unconventional approaches to learning. It also gives a strong work ethic, diligent in their studies, writing, or communication related work. So they are very structured, methodical, orderly, over orderly, like nitpicking, resistance to change, cautious about new technologies or trends, preferring to stick to familiar and established. These are the kind of people who would be old school. I would rather take a hard copy book rather than read on Kindle, for example. Siblings and neighbors, third house is also for that. Considering the aspects of the third house and Saturn retrograde there as the Lord of Ascendant. Okay? Sense of responsibility and possibly an overly serious and protective attitude towards neighbors, friends, younger siblings. And they can also go on very, very controlled short journeys. What do I mean? Third house is the house of short journeys, opposite house, ninth house, is the house of long journeys. Meticulously planned and controlled short trips. Do I really need to go for this trip? Is it necessary? Everything Saturn questions is on a necessity basis, and now because it's retrograde, it's even more. They might have excellent writing skills because they have precision of Saturn and attention to detail, Saturnian attention to detail, because the Lord of the Ascendant. They may produce well structured, well thought out, error free content of writing. Perfectionism, strong desire for perfection in third house matters, whether it is communication, daily routines, third house, or interaction with siblings and neighbors. Third house is your immediate surroundings, younger siblings, neighbors, where you live. Challenges and adaptation, challenging for the person to adapt to new information, technology, communication tools. We kind of already covered this, right? Now let's examine the ninth aspect and how it affects there. The ninth aspect of house, Saturn sitting in the third house, falls in the 11th house. 3 and 11, you got to straight away think 3 is the immediate neighbors. 11 is social networks like public platform, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on. It's a larger community. How does this affect there? Let's see. The 11th aspect, 11th position from Saturn becomes the 11th house in her case, Miss J. So structured social networks also become very methodical. Do I need to join this group? Let's say on Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, wherever. We are participating. There are so many platforms now. Organized and selective in choosing their friends. Larger social network is 11th house. Immediate social network is the third house. Please remember this. Selective in choosing their friends and prefer long-lasting connections, reliable connections. Saturn wants to check everything out. In this case, because it's retrograde, it's even more so. Long-term goals and ambitions, a sense of duty and discipline to pursuit of these goals, set clear objectives and work steadily towards them. Look at the graduation of this. Everything thinks Saturn. How does Saturn think? Conservative beliefs and values with their social circles, because 11th house is larger social circles, not immediate. They may gravitate towards groups that share traditional or established philosophies or worldviews, right? Commitment in group activities. Saturn is very committed. So it might become overtly committed, taking on the group energy as their own. Sense of commitment and responsibility in group activities and causes, may take on leadership roles and work diligently towards the betterment of a particular organization or a social cause. Now, why have I taken only Lord of the Ascendant, Aquarius and Capricorn, for example? Why? Because the Lord of the Ascendant, one of the most crucial things to evaluate in a natal chart, period. That's where your head is going most of the time. That's where your subconscious mind in your head is drawn towards. Let the Lord of the Ascendant be Saturn, which is this case, or even if it is other planets, which we shall see in the upcoming ones. Selective in friendships. Saturn will minimize things, right? So it will have fewer friends, more enduring and reliable friendships. Discerning in choosing their friends. They may prefer quality over quantity. Structured networking. Networking within professional or social context may be highly structured and goal oriented. Is this going to give me something what I need for my purposes? Is this group feeding me something which is practical? Saturn is very practical. Balancing and freedom and commitment. They need to combine personal growth with the service for a greater cause. Like I said, it's sitting in third house. Saturn wants skills for itself, let's say, right? Because the Lord of the Ascendant, Capricorn Ascendant, it is sitting in the third. Meaning, I want skills for myself and I'm going to participate in this group or in this Facebook group or in this social media, thinking how does it affect my skills? You want that feedback, and Saturn here becomes OCD about that. Conservative philanthropy, kind of mix of words. Structured discipline approach towards charitable or philanthropic efforts. 11th house is also the house of philanthropic efforts. It's more of a group energy, a collective energy, 11th and 12th both. Emphasis on long distance travel, 11th house aspect. 11th and 9th are long distance travels. Purposeful approach to travels with a focus on planned and goal oriented journeys. Once again, Saturnian thing comes into play, as in, I want to do something, go on a long journey, but it has to be fruitful to me. Wow. Now let's just tie quickly this into the nakshatra aspect, because ascendant nakshatra is also crucial, as I have said everywhere, many videos. It is in Shana, because we are talking about Lord of the Ascendant. Let us see how this plays out for her. What is Shana Nakshatra? Just a quick revisit here of what is Shana Nakshatra. There. So the life lesson of Shana Nakshatra is inquisitiveness of goal is required to find the path, not aimless wandering. Aimless wandering is not going to help you, Shravana Nakshatra, right? So what is Saturn trying to do here? One of the things, it wants to cultivate skill in a controlled way. All that we saw in the last slide, all the Saturnian implications, if you will. It needs to keep that in mind. She needs to keep that in mind. What is my goal here? Right? It will become amplified because of this Saturn placement. Let us see another case study. Let's take the case study of Miss C. Her ascendant is in Uttarashada within Capricorn. And Saturn for her is placed in the 8th house, house of secrets. In the 8th house, it's in an enemy sign of Leo. But never mind, it's retrograde. We are just talking of one aspect. Retrograde Saturn. 9th place of this Saturn happens to be get to the 4th house, home, homeland, family, heart, emotional matters. Let's see how this plays out for her. Saturn retrograde in the 8th house first. Intense self-examination. It intensifies that self-examination, which is a transformation house, the 8th house. The deep need for self-examination and introspection, constantly analyzing their own thoughts, feelings, behaviors, seeking to gain control over their inner world. 8th house is an uncontrollable house by default for any sign, any ascendant. It's a house of transformation and change. But Saturn wants control over things. So Saturn being retrograde, it becomes obsessive about controlling every single aspect of their life. See how this plays out. Fear of control, fear of the unknown, and strong desire for control over life's uncertainties. This may lead to over-controlling tendencies, trying to control every single aspect. And because it's aspect on the 4th house, the 9th place from Saturn, we shall see that later, it becomes more in the house. Obsessive need for order and structure and all aspects of life, daily routines, and insisting on following specific procedures. Obsessive attention to detail, all Saturnian aspects. Just simplify this. Just take all aspects of Saturn, aspects of the house, ninth position from Saturn, and that aspect following there. It's that simple. We're just analyzing the case study. Financial control, because 8th house is the house of what? Joint assets. Second house is the house of your assets. Opposite is what is gained from others. Second house is what you gain for yourself with your effort. And because there is that financial aspect, cautious and conservative to financial matters with a strong emphasis on savings. Saturn wants to save. It's a very frugal planet. Investments and financial security must be secure. Deeply buried emotions. Challenging for the individual to express emotions openly. Saturn is a dry planet. It is not emotional, so it has a challenge. 8th house is a house of emotions, also deep feelings. So they keep it under control, under wraps. Overcoming fear of change, focused control and structure, because they are trying to manage a deep-seated fear of change and transformation. Striving for perfection, too much of perfectionism, right? Now that is Saturn sitting retro in the 8th house. Now let's examine the 9th aspect of it, which falls on the 4th house of home and family. Now the 9th aspect of Saturn, which it brings from the retro Saturn in 8th house, it will give difficulty in emotional control, expressing emotions openly, even within family. Strong need to control and regulate their emotions. They are very reserved kind of people at home front. Need for structured home environment, becoming OCD about every little thing at home. Need to establish structure and orderly home environment, meticulous about maintaining living space and have a preference for well organized, very organized. Saturn is very organized. Overemphasis on family responsibilities. Family comes first, everything else comes later, kind of. Excessive sense of responsibility towards family members. Strong obligation to take care of family matters to the point of being controlling and excessively obsessive. You see this obsessive OCD factor here. Family secrets and privacy. They strive to maintain a high level of privacy within family units. Why are we talking about secrets here? 8th house. 8th house is the house of buried secrets where Saturn is sitting. Resistance to change at home. Saturn resists change. Saturn suppresses change. And change why? Once again, Saturn in the 8th house, bringing it to the 4th house. They prefer a stable, predictable family life. Emotional resilience. A sense of emotional resilience within the individual, a strong ability to withstand emotional crises. Maintain a steady demeanor in the face of adversity. Now her ascendant is in Uttarashada, so worthwhile examining what Uttarashada brings to her. There you go. What is the life lesson of Uttarashada? Individual wisdom merging with collective cause is the ultimate victory. So in this particular case, how does it affect her? Because she is trying to do something else. She is trying to maintain a controlled, able aspect. How will she learn this life lesson? Because life lesson is all that we are here to learn. She will want to examine why she is being OCD about not revealing some things. Separation, removing separation. Remember, that's the life lesson of Uttarashada. She has to learn this. She has to learn to let go of this OCD behavior within family and within all aspects thereof. That's what she has to do eventually. Now let's see another case study. Now let's consider the case study of Miss S. Her Saturn is retrograde, placed in the 9th house. And once again, we are considering as the Lord of the Ascendant. Lord of the Ascendant is very crucial in Natal Chart. Wherever it's placed, and if it's retrograde, you gotta watch for these. This will become a dominant theme in your life as an individual. So what happens to her? Let's see, Saturn in the 9th house as the Lord of the Ascendant. conservative beliefs, cautious approach to matters of religion, philosophy, higher knowledge, higher education, drawn to traditional or well established belief systems, may resist radical or innovative ideas. Why? This is the ninth house aspect. Higher learning, knowledge, wisdom is the house of Guru, house of Jupiter. Structured approach to spirituality. Once again, we bring the structure and order aspects of Saturn, which it loves, but now it is an OCD factor. It's obsessive-compulsive disorder. Structured discipline to spirituality and religious practices. Strong work ethic. I have to pause. My PC is going on over OCD in here. Hang on a minute. Overemphasis on authority figures. Ninth house is a house of Guru, that is authority figure. It may be even your teacher in this case. Might look to spiritual leaders and gurus for answers and may adhere to their teachings with great dedication. Saturn is dedicated, right? Resistance to new ideas, may struggle with adapting to alternative belief system. A lot of struggle. I have seen her with this. Balancing freedom and responsibility. Saturn here will seek to strive, combine personal growth with structured approach to self-improvement. I will do this first and this next and this next, and I got to make a list of these things in personal growth. Saturn in ninth. Fear of travel or change. Ninth house is the house of travels. So it will create a fear of unfamiliar environments. And she is shit scared to travel. She's never traveled, stepped out of the house. Saturn here will bring that OCD effect to that. Over-analyzing beliefs. Am I thinking right thing? Am I thinking wrong thing? Is this the right spiritual aspect? Is that the right spiritual aspect? Oh, this is so much of her. Let's see the ninth aspect. Ninth place from Saturn. Now it becomes the fifth house. Ninth from the ninth is fifth. Saturn in the ninth aspect from the OCD. Structured creativity, like a suppressed creativity, I would say. Approach to artistic endeavors. She has artistic approaches. Natal Chart, which we shall see now. Natal is creative, but Saturn impacting it is like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this thing correctly. Art, music, creativity. Cautious approach to romance. Oh yes, she's very cautious. Might take their time getting to know potential romantic partners. Fifth house is the house of romance and creativity and education, basic education. Responsible parenthood, strong sense of responsibility in parenting. Fifth house is the house of children, therefore parenting. Long-term relationships, may seek partners with whom they can build stable and enduring romantic connections. I have seen her go through relationships where the fellow is not even reliable one bit, but she will continue to endure because the Saturn makes it OCD about long-term stuff, long-term partnerships. She wants to see something there which isn't. Having fun becomes melancholic. Saturn is a very melancholic kind of a guy. Sadness, inherent grief. So romance becomes a melancholic affair, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be romantic candlelights and dinners. Something superficial about that. Saturn tends to make things superficial. Structured education for children, even becomes over obsessive about children's education. She is. Kids have to study this way. May prioritize formal education and academia. Fear of creativity. Saturn also creates these unnamed fears in us. May feel anxious about expressing themselves through art, writing, or other creative outlets. Balancing self-expression with responsibility. They need to find ways to express their creativity and enjoy the fun part of life. This is very important, especially if we consider her Ascendant Nakshatra is Dhanishta, which life lesson is find the right kind of resources to make true wealth, beauty, wealth, material. That's a challenge. She needs to find the right kind of materials. Materials in this case being anything: creativity, musical instruments. Dhanisha Nakshatra is about music, dance, arts, drama. So, how does this help her life lesson? Well, she needs to be conservative. Saturn gives a good ability to find it. Of course, it depends upon the pada, which I have not considered in her case. We're just doing the general aspects here. So, I want to wrap this up with a basic knowing and thinking here. Okay? Saturn will give you a retro Saturn in your natal chart will give you these OCD kind of aspects. Take the aspects of Saturn like we have studied and take it to the house matters and take the ninth place from itself where it will show up most dominantly. Next, we shall consider another case studies for retro planets as Lord of Ascendants. Thank you for watching. Take care and be awesome.